Hey, sports card fans, it's John Wade Boggs fan. Hope you're all doing well. Greg over at MidLife Sports Cards has a very interesting question for all of us for his question of the week. And that is, what's the biggest issue that needs to be addressed in the hobby besides the gambling aspect of modern cards? Now, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of varying answers to that question. Maybe some related to modern cards, maybe some to vintage. Maybe there's going to be some comments on grading, things like that. But the first thing that came to my mind to answer Greg's question is the future of the hobby. Now, the future of the hobby is mainly going to depend on bringing in kids into the hobby. Now, you may be able to get some adults that collected in the past, and maybe now that they have some more disposable income, maybe try to bring them back into the hobby. But long term, the future of the hobby is to bring in the youth, get them into the hobby, enjoy it, and then maybe they'll be enjoying the hobby for decades to come. Well, one of the barriers that I feel of bringing in new collectors to the hobby is the cost of cards. Now, I'm not talking about the high-end stuff, the boxes that cost multiple hundreds of dollars, in which you may get 8, 10, 12 cards in a box for, say, $400. I'm not talking about that high-end stuff, because that's not targeted, I think, to entry-level people into the hobby. But I went and ran some numbers, and it tells an interesting picture from when I get into the hobby and compared to, let's say, a kid wanting to get into the hobby today. So I started collecting back in 1978, and back then you could buy a pack of cards for 20 cents. And for those 20 cents, you'd get 14 cards per pack. So a little over a penny a card. Now, of course, 1978 is a lot different than 2025. So I did an inflation adjusted calculation of what that 20 cents would equal in today's dollars. And it basically comes out to be $1. So for that 20-cent pack of 1978 Topps cards, it equates to about $1 in 2025 dollars, or 7 cents a card. So basically 5 times what it was when I was a kid. Now, when I was 6 years old at the time. And for my weekly allowance, my parents gave me 50 cents. So with those 50 cents, every Sunday after church, my dad would go into the local newsstand, get a paper, or just go there for us and my sister and I. And I got to spend 50 cents, whether I wanted to buy baseball cards, a comic book, some bubble gum, whatever the case may be. I had 50 cents for that entire week to spend. And so it allowed me to buy at least, if I wanted to, at least 2 packs of cards. Well, that 50 cents allowance, again, in today's dollars, is about $2.50. So keep that in mind. So what about the prices of modern cards today for, say, another 6-year-old, 8-year-old wanting to get into the hobby for the first time? Well, for the 2025 Topps flagship, the base set, you can get a blaster box for $25. Now, for $25, you'd get 7 packs of 12 cards. So that equates to $3.57 a pack, or 30 cents a card. So remember, my inflation-adjusted 20-cent card back in 1978 would be equal to $1 today, and a pack essentially through a blaster box would cost about 3.5 times that. Now, you may say, John, the technology used in producing the cards today with the foils and the refractors and all that new technology, it's more expensive to produce a card than it did back in 1978. But 3.5 times more expensive? I don't think so. But let's say, okay, say you don't have $25 for a blaster box. Well, what about a hanger box? All right, maybe you can find one for $13, and again, the base Topps flagship Series 1. So for $13, you get 59 cards or 22 cents a card. Again, about 3 times the cost of what the inflation-adjusted card of a 1978 Topps card. Now, beyond the base card, another, I guess, a cheaper product that Topps produces is Topps Heritage, and that's been recently released. Again, it's not I don't think you consider Topps Heritage as a high-end set. So let's look at the Topps Heritage prices. So for a blaster box of 2025 Topps Heritage, again, around $25, you get 8 packs instead of 7 packs as the base top set, but only 8 cards per pack instead of 12. So it's a little bit less per pack, about $3.13, but 39 cents a card. So now you're getting around 5 times the expense of an inflation-adjusted 78 Topps card. Well, what about a Heritage hanger box? Again, you could pick one up maybe for around $13, but you only get 35 cards in that hanger box compared to the 59 cards in the Topps Series 1 flagship. So now you're looking at 37 cents a card. Now, again, when I'm going over these numbers here, okay, you may say, okay, John, cents per card, okay, that doesn't really make that much of a difference. But again, I don't know how much kids are getting for an allowance or how much parents are willing to spend on kids. But to me, if I had a 6-year-old and every week that we go to Walmart to do our grocery shopping, if he says, hey, can I have a hanger box every week, $13 every week? That's fairly expensive to keep doing that just for a somewhat base Topps product that, yeah, you may get. I think Topps has been, trying to put some decent hits in some of their retail product, but odds are you're not going to pull that truly amazing one-of-a-kind card or autograph card. You may get maybe some parallels and things like that. Maybe a nice rookie card of the big rookie that year. But and maybe it is okay for a starting point, but it's still relatively more expensive today than it was when I was a kid, even for inflation-adjusted numbers. But let's say you want to go big and get a hobby box of 2025 Topps Heritage. Well, that'll run you $120 for 24 packs of 8 cards. So now, for a hobby box, which has a chance of either one autograph or relic card in the whole box, now you're at $5 per pack, or 63 cents a card. Now, recently, Eric, 4 Leaf Cards, came down. He was in the area for work, and he came down to visit. And before we came back to the house, we stopped off at at my local card shop. And he bought a whole bunch of packs, but we decided to do a pack war for a video. And we each bought 3 packs of 2025 Topps Heritage Hobby. And at my local card shop, they were $7 per pack. Now, again, it's, the local card shop has to make some money. The retail cost, I think, through Topps for an entire box is $120, but I wasn't going to spend $120. So, buying a pack at a time or whatever. You can do that at your local card shop, but they have to make some money. So I ended up paying around, when you figure in taxes, about $23 for those 3 packs of Topps Heritage. So again, imagine wanting to take your kid to the local card shop and he just wants a few packs, and you walk away with spending almost $25 for 3 packs of cards. And again, we're not talking about high-end cards. So again, I don't want to be sounding like I'm nitpicky, but it seems to me that the entry level for kids getting into the hobby is a lot more expensive than it was when I was a kid. And if Topps and Fanatics and the big players in the hobby want to 10x the hobby, get all these new people into the hobby. Again, the future of the hobby is getting kids in. The price point of getting into the hobby, I think, is becoming more and more expensive, which is counterintuitive to try to get kids into the hobby. And you take maybe, some kids getting in, they may not want to, buy packs of cards. They may want individual cards. Well, the latest and greatest thing right now is not just to buy the card, but to buy a PSA 9 or PSA 10 copy of your favorite player. Well, now that even adds more to the cost of the cards for these kids getting into the hobby. And while you see some of these, teenagers and young kids walking around with these cases full of, probably carrying thousands of dollars in their little cases at shows, chances are their parents started them off, and then maybe through dealing and trading and stuff, worked their way up to building a very expensive collection. But just to get them in, I don't know if I was, in other words, if I was in the same situation with my parents just giving me an allowance, or maybe getting an odd job here and there and getting some money, I wouldn't be able to afford what I could back then if I were to enter the hobby now. So that's my general thought of a big issue, maybe not the biggest issue facing the hobby, but I think it's one that needs to have some thought, especially I think next year, once Fanatics has now all the licenses, they're going to be the player in terms of card production, and they're going to be able to set the price. Now, again, trying not to get into the gambling aspect of everything that Graig doesn't want us to touch on. I understand there's a give and take between putting out a very affordable product and still being able to include enough hits for people to be interested. I'm sure if Fanatics wanted to, they could put out a Topps flagship that is maybe $1 a pack, okay? But chances are you're not going to get hardly any hits. So again, would there be a lot of interest in buying those packs if it's just full of base and maybe some general parallels, but the odds of hitting anything big are even astronomical than maybe what they are through normal retail packs today? I don't know. Obviously, as part of the hobby, Fanatics is interested in putting out high-end product as well, but to me that's tailored more to the seasoned collector, those adults that may have more money to spend in the hobby. I know I certainly am not interested in paying hundreds of dollars for a box of cards in the hopes of hitting something big. I'm in my lane of Wade Boggs and vintage, but for those that are in collect modern cards, that may be something that they're interested in doing. But for the entry level collector, I think it's getting more and more, like I said, more and more expensive to have new kids enter into the hobby. So With that, would love to know in the comments what you think about the current cost of cards and how that impacts maybe kids getting into the hobby. More of a burden on the parents to spend more money for these cards to get kids that are interested in collecting cards than maybe it was when you started collecting. And if you have any other thoughts on maybe what some of the big issues are that need to be addressed in the hobby, would love to know again in the comments. And with that, that's all I have for you. So until next time, thanks for watching.